All right, it's time for another one of my little rant videos because I'm starting to see all this rate cut talk coming out again. I'm going to show you an article covering RBC and where they think things are going and my thoughts on the whole situation when it comes to interest rates. So it's going to be all about interest rates, speculation, where they're going to go, what's going to happen if they do change. But before I do that, if you would like to stay up to date on the real estate market, and particularly if you live in my area of Surrey and the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And please also click the like button for the YouTube algorithm to help me get this information out to more people. And then maybe somebody will agree with my opinion. And if they don't, they will for sure add a comment down below this. And of course, I am a real estate agent here in Surrey and across the Lower Mainland. So if you need any help, you can book a call with me right now using the link in the description below. Now let's get on to interest rates because I saw this article. Let me show it to you here. It says RBC now forecasting first Bank of Canada interest rate cut coming this June. Now this is coming from quotes of Claire Fan. She is one of RBC's top economists. I've actually been efforting Claire to try and get her on the Tom Story Show podcast. No luck yet, not even a response. So Claire, if you see this, come on the show, come talk to us about this. But she is now starting to think, or at least saying, that she believes that the overnight interest rate will cut this June in the June announcement from Tiff Macklin and the Bank of Canada, 25 basis points, finally signaling the end of these high interest rates, if we're going to call it that, bringing the overnight rate down to 4.75. Of course, the reason she believes this is a softening of the economy. And inflation has turned down. So the Bank of Canada has said, hey, we are on a hard fight for inflation. We're going to crush inflation. But now inflation seems to be within their target range. So there's no need, apparently, to keep these interest rates as high as they have been if the inflation fight is over, or at least mostly won. And then, of course, there's always the argument that Canada, they can't step out of line with the U.S., which is actually not true, but I'll talk about that in a sec as well. Because it appears that Jerome Powell, or the U.S. Fed, is starting to say that we're not going to see cuts anytime soon, quite yet anyway, and it will probably not happen until later in the year. And another RBC economist is saying that they are actually expecting that home prices will start to rise moderately as these eventual, whenever they happen, as these rate decreases start. But they're not expecting a crazy pop that it's going to be like some crazy incentive to dive back into the market because the rate cuts are not going to happen very quickly. So now let me give you my opinion on this whole thing. Personally, from the beginning of the year, if you go back and watch a podcast, a couple of these videos, I said, I don't think we're going to see any rate cuts until at least summer. So far, I believe that. I think, personally, this is just a thought. I don't think they're going to start cutting early enough. I think a cut in June would actually be a good thing for the overall economy because it's going to ease us back into hopefully a little lower rates and businesses can keep rocking and rolling again. Or get rocking and rolling again. But this isn't a business side of things in this channel. Like, I'm not worried about that really at all for the point of your viewership. What's misguided, I think, is the fact that the Bank of Canada will do the right thing early enough. Just like they left money too low too long, they're probably going to leave money too high too long. They're going to leave those interest rates too high too long. More unemployment will come. They're probably only going to do significant decreases if there is a problem. That being said, data keeps going this way. At some point, they need to cut. There's no point in keeping interest rates 2% above inflation for a very, very long time. It doesn't really make sense. It puts unneeded pressure on the economy, of which we're seeing. I think we're seeing needed pressure right now, but that's besides the point. So my guess would be June, too early. July, very probable. I think for sure by September, there's going to be a rate cut. I would put a $100 bet on that, no problem. But then now, what is that going to do to the housing market? This is what I hate. This is a big misnomer, right? So right now, in my estimation, only the foolish people or the very risky people have hung on to that variable rate mortgage. It would be at about 6.5% right now to get a variable rate mortgage. There is, like, TD came out with a discounted mortgage. Sure. But most folks are 6.39 to under 7 on their variable rate mortgage. So let's say interest rates do come down that quarter point. it's not necessarily going to spur on housing purchases for that reason, because if you think about it, you can already get money at 5.25% pretty easily. You can get some 3-year money under 5%. So what would a 1/4 point decrease on a variable rate do that you can't already do way better than in the fixed term money? So for instance, you would need to get down to a 5-year fixed rate right now. You would probably need the same amount as a 5-year fixed rate. You'd probably need at least 4 1/4 point downturns or adjustments by the Bank of Canada. So why wouldn't you just take that money now? But here's what it will do. It will change buyer sentiment. It will change seller sentiment. It will change realtor sentiment. I mean, realtors are really the one championing this on because they think it's going to get back to normal if we have lower interest rates again. But it will change mindset because not everybody watches channels like this one. Not everybody understands that that's already baked into the fixed year, right? Like the fixed money, excuse me. Not everybody understands, unless they're looking for a mortgage right now, that you can get 5.25% 5-year fixed rates. So they're waiting for that interest rate drop, of which they would never take that product in the first place, and that drop's already here. So the difference there, though, is it's all mindset. It's all, is it a good time to buy? Is it a bad time to buy? Right now, people are hearing it's a bad time to buy, even though it's better than it was a year ago when prices were higher and interest rates were higher. And now let's talk about the difference between the US Fed and the Canadian Bank of Canada and their interest rates. Everybody thinks they need to be the same. They do not. Everybody thinks that if the Canadian if the Bank of Canada lowers their interest rates, that all the money will flood to the US and it will drop the Canadian dollar. In theory, that might be true. However, it's not always true in practice. For example, the last time, I believe this was like, let's say 07, 08, the last time that the Canadian dollar was really at or above par, our interest rates in this country were lower than they were in the States. So yes, it would be theoretical that our dollar devaluing because of lower interest rates is going to be a bad thing for us. I mean, it will increase business in Canada. U.S. will invest in Canada. We'll start exporting more stuff if we have a lower dollar, which is all kind of good. It'll be really tough to go on vacations and that sort of thing. But to simply say that the only thing that matters is how close we stay to the U.S. Fed overnight rate is actually not true at all. And you can prove this by looking back in time. There are so many more factors that are in play with the dollar than just interest rates. So I don't know what's going to happen with interest rates. If I had to bet, I would pick July over top of June. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Please remember to subscribe, and we'll see you in a couple of days.